But okay, now apocalypse.
Yeah, on the brighter side of things.
On the brighter side of things, right? So it's.
Welcome, Fedi Friends, to episode 65 of Fireside Fedi. I'm your host, Ozoned. Fireside Fedi is a show about folks within the Fediverse. If you're hearing this, you are the Fediverse. Before we start, I wanted to let folks know that Fireside Fedi has a new home at tubefree.org /FiresideFedi. Please, as normal, boost, like, subscribe the channel to get it out there. That's the only way that the Fediverse grows organically. You can subscribe to the new channel via the Fediverse, via RSS, via podcast. And if you're on any following or listening on any of the major platforms anyway, I'm working on getting it moved over so you don't have to do anything. With all that out of the way, my guest today, which I'm very nervous to talk to, is Professor, and we just went over this, so I'm going to do my best, Heino Falcke.
It's getting there. It's Heino Falcke.
Falcke.
Falcke, yeah.
Falcke. Dr. Falcke.
Right? It's a bird. It's the German word of the bird.
And it's a very specific, just the end of it is very much not in the English, like pronunciations of things, so it makes it difficult for me.
I'm sure it was there a few hundred years ago.
Yes, maybe, absolutely. Dr. Falcke is a professor of astrophysics, best-selling author, and no offense, I'm not going to try to pronounce the German, I'll just say the English, which is Light in the Darkness, about the first ever image of a black hole shadow with the event horizon that Dr. Falcke is deeply involved in. Dr. Falcke works at Radboud University?
Yes.
All right. Near Cologne.
No, the university is actually in the Netherlands. I live in Cologne.
Oh, you live in Cologne, and it's okay.
I'm commuting across borders, right? So it's still possible in Europe.
That's amazing thing as an American that I try to think of. Like, that is so foreign to me. Like that,
it's foreign, but it's nearby, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like going from I was always going to say California to Utah, but that's not the right comparison between Germany and the Netherlands, to be honest.
No, but that's the closest in the U.S. we can compare it to, right? Moving states, like you do have very cultural and distinct differences, as well as borders that are completely different country, but you are able to move freely. Is that just because they're a part of the EU, or is it just how it all is?
That's because they're part of EU. I still remember when I was a kid, or even older. We still had to stop at the border, show our passports every time, and then at some point the borders went away. Now there's some border controls again a little bit, but it's not that heavy really. I commute. And it's really a different country, right? The Netherlands it has a different culture. It has a different language.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Germany, for sure not. And you cross the border every day, like I go to work, and I have a bank account in Germany, and so I work in the Netherlands, and so the Dutch employer pays my salary to a German bank account, and these are the good things that Europe actually gives us, and makes these borders transparent and traversable.
And it's. That's incredible to think of. Again, as an American, it's as easy as moving between states, but we're talking moving between the US and Mexico, which is not an easy thing. I'm sure there might be people that do it every day, but we used to have open borders, I guess, 70 years ago? And that's what people would do, right? You just go back and forth across. It's not a big deal. And then we all want to enforce our sovereignty, our lines, but it has to be a balance, especially when you're so close like that to something like the Netherlands versus Germany.
Yeah, to be honest, in this globalized world, even a country like Germany with its 80 million people, well, it's something, right? And it's one of the largest economies in the world still. But on your own, I mean, you can't persist, right? I mean, you have to work together. That's something that I think we've learned, and that's also what we learned in science, by the way. You need each other, and you're often in competition across European nations, also across science groups. But you come together for certain purposes, which I guess could lead us to the Event Horizon Telescope. When we do this, right? You have different institutions working together on a global scale. And then they have one common purpose, and you see that initially there's still some fear, and there's always competition. There still is between different groups, but it becomes fluent, because people actually even go from one group to the other, and they get to know each other, and so the fear goes away after a while. If you get used to it.
Yeah, because I mean, especially something as important as astrophysics, right? You're not going, while you might have a country that excels in one piece of it, no one can study all of it together. And even it has become a global industry. I remember who else I was talking to. Oh, I think it was Professor Lawler, who was like, my coworkers literally, there's person, I think it was like from China. She was in Canada. There's someone from Europe, and like they literally work together every single day, because the Earth spins. When you can't see it on one side, the other side can see it.
Absolutely. And I just came out of a collaboration meeting. So we have, this is the Event Horizon Telescope. If you don't know, this is the collaboration that made this first ever image of a black hole. It's about 300 scientists. There are 13 main stakeholder institutions that sort of carry most of the weight, but in total there are 60, I think at least 60 institutions, or even 60 countries. I don't even know, but I mean really many more around the world. And this conference was online, and so you had people in Asia, you had people in the US, and you had people in Germany, Europe, whatever. And they would have a conference, and I would get up at 7 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock, and I would have something in the afternoon, and with something, until midnight our time.
Yeah.
And, for some people it's 2 o'clock in the morning, so we would record some parts. So because for some people it's 7 o'clock is actually way too early, so they have to see the recorded version. But yeah, it works. It's not as good as if you really get together in person, which we also do. But it's one way of, being a global community and working together.
And that's one of the reasons I love the Fediverse, is because I get to talk to so many different folks from so many different backgrounds that grew up in so many different ways, that diversity is such a valuable asset, right? Because you might have seen something different growing up, and you look at things in a different light and a different lens, and that's how we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, no, I've been on the Fediverse. I moved away from. I was, I had a decent followership on Twitter. I had some, also good exposure. I thought, you would get sometimes 100,000 views or something like this. Not all the time, but several thousands wasn't quite unusual for things I would post there. So, and lots of colleagues. But then there were very good reasons to leave it. And I think once in a while I look back at it and see, how terrible it has become. It just, it just blows your mind. And then you go I went to Mastodon, to the Fediverse, and of course it was a different world, and not many astronomers at the time, still not too many, to be honest. Community has a bit dispersed, unfortunately. But yeah, you hear things. Sometimes you see things. I don't really agree with that. I mean, that's a bit extreme, and had some discussions. But actually, even though sometimes you think, okay, this could go into a bad spiral, this kind of discussion. But it turns out in the end, sometimes we don't agree, but we understand each other. So I had actually good controversial discussions on Mastodon, which I appreciated that you can do this.
Yeah, I love that we even just have an option anymore. I'm hopeful that like European Union or something can take on development or you know, are interested in digital sovereignty enough that they can fund things like this. I mean, that's why I'm talking to you right now, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. We are connecting across continents right now. And indeed, I think that's, I mean, there's a need for regulation and pushback on some of the big tech companies. And I think Europe is the one place where it's still, we have most of the possibilities. But on the other hand, Europe is not very good at taking swift action, understanding technology sometimes, understanding the issues of technology. But my impression is it now actually is being understood by media people, by politicians, not by everybody, but by a few people. Still not enough people understand the power of digital information technology that is there.
Well,
and the role they can play. The fact that we can do something. People have gotten so used to, some big companies in certain countries will do that for me. No. A lot of things we can do ourselves, and I still think we're going sometimes in the wrong direction. Just give you an example. I'm a physics institute, Department of Astronomy at Radboud University, and we used to have old-fashioned computer department, right? So I would support you and so forth, and they would know to program, they would know Unix, they would know everything.
Right. Yes.
But they start to retire, and they hire sort of the young kids, and they know Microsoft. That's what they know, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know anymore all of this Linux, Unix, so they're Microsoft certified things, right? And so suddenly they think about we go to Microsoft Mail and so forth, and luckily, I think they realized, okay, that's going in the wrong direction. And so,
yes. Yeah. No, and as I've told people is I really think that something like this is the start of a new internet, but we have to look at it as we have the power for instantaneous communication, essentially, anymore, right? Like I'm talking to you in Germany right now, and it's essentially a live conversation. And we haven't wrapped our heads around what that means, who controls it, how they control it, like instant access to all information and who controls it. Governments have not caught up at all.
No. And that's always with new technology, how this works.
Yep.
I've written a new book in German, unfortunately not available in English yet. It's called Between Big Bang and Apocalypse. So the entire story of our world. So it really describes the, Big Bang, the formation of galaxies, stars, elements, and the formation of Earth, the formation of, the atmosphere, the oceans, the formation and evolution of life, humans, civilizations, and then up into the apocalypse. And turns out, the apocalypse could take a long time, right, before it really hits hard.
I hope.
So if we work together, we have a chance to actually get through it, through the challenges that are there. But clearly, we are living now in a very special moment in our, I think, in maybe in cosmic history, because we don't know how many civilizations are out there, how many made it actually. Nobody knows. It could be that we are the only one who's left, right? We have no idea. Maybe there are many, maybe it's just one. So, and we are now the planet where everything is connected. Everything is interacting. It's the cosmos that made us and still influences really long-term climate and evolution. We have a geosphere, which controls our climate as well. Volcanoes and earthquakes actually change our climate on long scales.
Yes.
Then we have a biosphere, which changes our climate and changes the geosphere. Actually, it actually had even impact on how continental crust actually, behaves, because it's, it changes some of the properties. And now we have humans who also change the climate, and suddenly on a time scale never seen before.
Yeah.
And how these humans behave really depends on their beliefs and how they communicate, because we are great at communication. We are communicators, right?
Yes.
And that's really what made us, I think, survive until now. We are sort of, some random apes, and now suddenly they're dominating the world because they can communicate and work together. That's very, very special. And in this current world where we, change everything, and we are changed by the cosmos again, right? So if an asteroid comes in, or if the climate changes, we change our behavior, and it's really completely non-linear system. The internet, plays a major role because it's part of that system.
Yes,
right? It's part of the Earth. It's because the internet. What I sometimes say is TikTok changes our climate, not just because of the servers, because it changes our minds and changes the way that we behave, and that changes, our climate, and that changes again how the biosphere behaves, and that will change in the end, in longer terms, how the Earth looks like. So I mean, it really, the internet has a cosmic dimension to it, and we live in this moment where it actually becomes relevant for the first time, right? In this last 20, 30 years, this is a determining factor for the evolution of the entire globe. So anyway, maybe I'm hyping it too much, but so controlling the internet, understanding what the internet is, how we communicate, is absolutely vital. And some people have understood this very well, and they make tons of money. They control it, and the rest of us, which is wake up way too late. And but I trust in the power of the many, that at some point they will overcome the few who will cash in, who want to cash in.
Okay.
I think that's how the evolution of history, has been.
Well, it's cyclical, right? Technology comes out, it gets exploited, and society basically has to rein it back in and be like, okay, news, print media, radio, like we have all these laws now that we've all decided on what can and cannot be done, but that's because we had to go through it.
Exactly. And that's exactly it.
Yeah. It's a pendulum that swings back and forth, and I hope it's going to swing back the other way pretty soon.
Yeah, but it takes much more effort to do something together than having one or a few people, taking control. It's inevitable after some while. I mean, some decency and some civilization emerges out of the chaos and the exploitation of new technology and new possibilities. I mean, there are many examples in history and evolution of the Earth. One example I came across recently was the invention of the wheel. Right.
Okay.
I never knew where the wheel was invented. You always thought this was one of the biggest inventions of the world, but nobody knows who invented it. Well, it turns out that there is a certain type of people about 5,000 years ago. It's called the Yamnaya, which were living in the steppe in sort of in Ukraine and sort of the Black Sea. They essentially, might not have invented the wheel, but they used it. They built wagons, and they had herds, and they were nomads, and they would just suddenly, because of that, became very powerful, and actually conquered a lot parts of Europe. And today, actually, if you look at Europeans, 30 to 40% of our DNA is actually from these people. And they conquered sort of half the continent, and they got rid of the farmers, for example, in England. I think took if I remember correctly, I was talking with the experts. I'm not an expert myself, but what I learned was the people that built Stonehenge were farmers, right, from Turkey and whatever. And then there were sort of the males were gone after 2 generations. And so technology really changed Europe, for example. And but then it takes a while to actually rearrange everything, and at some point people, the wild people, so to speak.
And that's an excellent point about the wheel, and it makes perfect sense and not something that we think of. We think of the wheel as ubiquitous, right? That it is, we all know what a wheel is. It is, it's essentially to the point where you learn it so young, it might as well be innate knowledge. But it's the same thing with, like, I think the more classic example that I've heard of is Genghis Khan, right? Because didn't Genghis Khan create like stops for his riders to kind of trade off and go on? So it's kind of like a Pony Express type thing, allowing them to exchange information very quickly across their entire empire, something the world had not really seen at that time.
That's maybe, I'm not aware of this. That could very well be. It's like the sort of ancient version of internet with horses, so to
right?
speak.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the wheel is similar, right? If you embrace new technology, you have the chance to conquer the world. And some people understand that, and others say, "Oh, we don't need that new technology, and it's something I don't understand," and so forth. At some point, you're swept away. So it's important to understand technology and understand the relevance that technology has on society, or the impact it has on society. Right? There's always an interaction between technology and society, and you can't just close your eyes and say, "Oh, I don't care. I'm not technologist," and so forth.
No one can say they're not into technology if they're in any kind of modern society today, because it's a part of your everyday life.
Yes.
Right. Your phone, it literally is, it goes everywhere with you, and they are capitalizing on that right now. Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. So you're blowing my mind already. No, this is great conversation. And I'm hopeful that, because again, it's the same as the printing press. A lot of people have been saying we are going through an age that we have never gone through before, because we've seen similar events when we started being able to share information, but not at the speed that we can. So now with any given moment, you can literally see when, something is awful happening on the other side of the world.
Yeah, not entirely true, right? So, I mean, we had the invention of the Morse code and the electric,
yes.
How's it called, telegraph in English, right? Or
yes.
We had radio, we had television, and the promise of radio and television was now we can educate all our societies, right? It was, the understanding of the promise was, everybody can have, fantastic concerts at home.
Yeah.
They get, professors teaching them things, and you can learn stuff. The education for everyone, and so it becomes accessible.
And what was it? World War I, the Spanish flu, right? A lot of countries went to like radio-based teaching for kids.
Okay, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did they have radio that early? Because when was the Spanish flu? It was
World War I.
Yeah, no. I thought, was it 1916 the flu? That's what I'm thinking. Is that, did we have radio at the time? Widespread? Maybe.
I mean, that's what I've seen pictures, supposedly,
right.
Okay. Of America at that time, and kids huddled around a radio. Maybe it was fake. Who knows? It's the internet.
The radio technology existed, but I was wondering how widespread it was. And I know, for example, like in Nazi Germany, it was very important for the propagandists to take over radio.
Yep.
And so suddenly the radio was then used for propaganda and so forth in Germany. And so very quickly the radio that was sort of for education to everybody suddenly turned to the propaganda instrument for an authoritarian state.
And that's that's what I think a lot of people are afraid of with the internet right now, right? Is there are a specific few that have vested interest to lead the narrative any way they want, and whether people believe you or not that they're doing that is the question, and we'll never know until the end.
Yeah,
right?
Well, for some people, it's pretty obvious that not necessarily, the idea is to spread all the truth, but, to dump a lot of stuff on you. A lot of stuff that you see on the traditional internet is not there just to educate you in a positive, uplifting way. Let's put it in a diplomatic way, right?
Yeah.
And so at least in democratic countries after the Second World War in Germany, we started to have a system where I think radio was pretty okay, for still until today. We have pretty good radio, public and also private, and so diversity. And I think, radio is not our problem anymore.
Yes.
But we had to go through a very terrible phase, with World War II and the Nazi regime and all the cruelty that happened there.
Yeah,
and it was not the fault of radio, but it was certainly technology that was used to make it possible. And every time I think technology and economy changes in a drastic way, systems become unstable and subject to take over from people with not so good intentions.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. The tool, the technology is not the good or evil. It's how you use it, right? And those that are in charge and in power to control it. And that's another reason why I want to fight for this. I've never been on big social media, not much. I'm streaming to stuff now, right? But it really is about all that control. And I mean, you're the one that wrote a book about the end. What does the apocalypse look like? Are we close?
Well, just to finish up that. Finish that thought, then we can go to the apocalypse.
It's an uplifting show.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make you happy. It's always dangerous if technology or certain powers are in the hand of very few people. That's the point, right? So I think you need to make sure that there's a control, that's a balance of powers and so forth. And that's why Europe, I hope, as if coming back to the beginning of the show, has some advantages. We are many little different countries and bigger and little ones.
Yep.
But it makes it also very, sometimes very difficult to come to a decision or to strong policies. It takes a while. It's just, it's very tiring to come to compromises, and they're never good. Never as you would like them. But it's also very, very difficult to destabilize it completely, right? Because if maybe one country goes crazy for a while, then the others maybe swing a different way and so forth. So there's a certain balance between those many different countries if they are sort of on similar levels. So that helps. That's called competition, right? That's market to some degree.
Yes.
And as soon as the market is not working anymore because you have monopolists in certain areas, it's dangerous. And we have that in the internet to some degree, right? We have really people monopolizing technology. Now apocalypse.
Yeah. On the brighter side of things.
On the brighter side of things, right? So it's well, I was looking at it. I was, of course, a short-term evolution of stuff, and so the good and the bad news, right? I mean, let's say the good news. I mean, the one that, of course, people are afraid of is, political destabilization in this the stuff we were just discussing. I have some hopes that we can, get through this phase and come to a stable situation in the world. I'm not sure this will go without pain. Let's put it that way. And I hope we can limit the pain. There will be pain, and it depends on all of us to what degree, what the degree of pain we have to go through.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one is, of course, is climate change, of course, and it will happen. It does happen. It is caused by us. There's no question, and it has never happened so quickly before in the history of the Earth. It has happened before. CO2 levels have changed, and it's completely influenced the evolution of the Earth.
Yep.
Temperatures had been 14 degrees hotter. So it's not that the Earth will completely collapse, right?
Yes, life finds a way. If anything, it's very tenacious. Life finds
a way, and a colleague of mine who was a biologist said, life is so deeply part of this planet. Even in the in the Earth's crust, you have life. The Earth is infected by life. it's not going to go away so easily, right? So the question is, what happened to us, right? So as humans. And civilizations, of course, are very, very subject to climate change. Climate change has made and destroyed civilizations, empires.
Yep.
And so I'm still pretty optimistic that humans will survive. And I think we have a role to play on this planet. We have reason to be here. We are not the virus of this planet, as you sometimes hear. Right? So.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that the virus actually also plays a role, it's actually necessary. It's not always a negative role that viruses play. We can be, and we need to be guardian of this planet at some point.
Well, and it's I mean, there are symbiotic relationships, right? In the microorganism environment, we could be symbiotic.
We actually are, right? We are symbiotic with this world, right? So this is, we just need to understand it, because for the first time, again, in the evolution of this planet, our feedback on this world matters.
Yes.
Right? In the past, it would have local effects and some stuff, right? I mean, I know, I remember that the Romans cut all the trees actually for their fleet, right? So now you have not too many forests anymore in Italy. Okay. But now we I hope it's true. Historians may correct me. That's what I remember.
Every single time I say something like, yeah, kids were huddled around the radio for the Spanish flu, I'm always like, someone will tell me if I'm wrong. I know.
Yeah, right. That's why on the Fediverse, people will have the answer in Mastodon or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think we can easily say wrong things will be because we are corrected, and that's actually also very, gives you relief.
Yes.
And anyway, but now actually it's on a global scale, and so everything we'll do actually will change the globe, and so we have to learn our new role, understand our new role, right? That hadn't been the case in the past. And we will, but we may go back, like if we're 3-degree increase in temperature, I think we're like 20 degrees 20 million years back. That's essentially when, all the sort of the plants that we eat today, the grasses and so forth, and the animals that we eat today, if you still eat animals because they eat grass, that came about I think 20 million years ago. So we go into a territory back, or in the phase of the Earth that is it's going to be different, very different from the ecology we live from today, and with a speed that we don't know, how nature will react to it, actually, if it's able to react. And so it will have, just the speed itself will have an effect. I still think we'll be around in 1,000 years, even in 10,000 years, maybe even a million years. But again, not necessarily without pain. And if we're around, I think then...
I mean, I'm not, but...
The important thing is we'll have learned so much, right?
Yes. No, and that's every generation faces their crises, right, and their tragedy that they have to come up to. Humanity as a whole, as we said, is very tenacious, right? So it is possible that what we look at today as an insurmountable issue for the next generation is something that they're just like, yeah, we have this in our house, right? That resolve this. But we have to keep pushing forward. And I think, again, something like the internet that is not controlled by any one company, that, scientists can come together on a worldwide basis and say, we're seeing this, what can we do? Has such potential for us to take back the power from those that have kind of taken it and led the narrative over the last 100 whatever years, right?
Yeah. Yes, and I think maybe the kids, or maybe our grandkids, they will sort of be taught by their parents, the internet, but it's they'll talk about it like we talk about them about drinking and smoking, whatever. And then they may go on the internet just to to annoy their parents.
No, and it's, I
mean,
mean,
they realize, okay, I shouldn't, I really shouldn't get drunk every evening, and I shouldn't be on the internet all the time. or other things. So that's my hope, that we'll learn to deal with this. That we also learn to deal with climate change. It's already happening, right? I mean, if like in Germany, where 60% of the power is now, I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's renewable.
Yep.
Right? Nobody would have believed that 20 years ago, that wind and solar and water could just, I mean, people were thinking like 10, 15%, but it's never going to replace anything. And now it's 60%.
So this is the amazing
economic power that will push this forward.
Well, and it's not even 20 years we could see that. The way that I look at it is, I mean, my kids, they're growing up with internet. My oldest is 8, my youngest is 5. But 100 years ago, flight was barely a thing. Right? I think 1908, I think, is the Wright brothers' first flight, and within 50 years, 60 years, we got to the moon.
That was a flight with engine, with motors. So there was a German flying before, and there was a British who also flew before. So,
No, and I read a book about the Wright brothers. They actually studied a lot of, I can't remember the German's engineer's name. They all kind of learned from each other. But then within 50, 60 years, we were on the moon.
Right.
And
not with airplanes though, but it was certainly related.
Yeah, and
we haven't been back, actually.
Oh, don't worry, it's coming, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we have such an amazing ability, and I think with the instant access to communication, the instant access to talk to people from around the planet, to learn and engage, if only we would do it in an open way, we could solve these kinds of problems. And I think people are solving these. So question for you.
Okay. I think you haven't asked a single question yet, right? So
this has been great, though. I love this. Again, it's, as I tell people, it's a fireside chat. It's not really an interview. It's just kind of a show and a talk. And I love this. If life is so tenacious on Earth, it existed before us, it's going to exist after us.
To be honest, I have to look up the word tenacious.
If life is so prevalent, it is so hardy that it can survive anywhere.
Right. Okay. Yes.
There has to be life out there, right?
Yeah. And this new book, again, which is only available in German, and so just to make some advertisement here.
Yeah.
I talk to people actually who study the emergence of life. Right?
Oh wow!
So that's a big question. It's actually a big question in astronomy these days, because we have a field called astrobiology. It's still a bit theoretical. Because people, we haven't found life out there, but the question, how did life emerge, and the search for life is an important part of astronomy today, and it's very fascinating. And I talked to a guy from the Netherlands, Kees Dekker, who is actually trying to make artificial cells, and to make life sort of in the lab. Turns out he also is a devout Christian, by the way, and so
this is one of
people ask him, you want to play God, and he says, no, I want to play for God. I want to understand how life works, and I understand cells.
That's that's one of the things. I was raised Catholic. I'm not a religious person, but that's one of the things that I've heard a lot. Like yourself, you in your bio, you're you have a doctor of astrophysics, but you're also a Christian.
Yeah.
And a lot of folks I've talked to that are both, because it's kind of an anathema to some people. Like, well, you can't be a scientist and believe in religion. It's like a lot of those folks say, no, I'm using science to define and help answer my religion. Is that kind of how you land?
I'm a deeply curious person, so I want to know. I was the kind of kid who was asking questions, why?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was, looking into science. I was looking into, theology, religion, and I had the luck that I was sort of a circle and the church I was involved in, where you could ask questions, and you could really ask very critical questions, and you sit around and discuss. We had Bible groups, and you would read a story, and you ask, is that true? What does it mean? And so you would shoot at it, and you'd find actually a lot of good answers and deep deep answers by discussing and critically asking questions. While when I was in the US, often it was like, okay, now here is a book which tells you exactly the answers to the question. Right?
Yes.
So I'm much more used to finding the answers myself.
Yeah.
And so that I find enriching. Right. And so also talking about, in the religious setting and theological questions, that broadens my horizon rather than limiting it. But I can understand that in certain places it can go the other way around. But if you look at the history of science, I mean, a lot of the famous scientists were believers. You cannot say this cannot go together. Actually, a lot of our science, is built upon deeply religious people. Even Galileo, right, who is always this big example. He had problems with the Pope, which can happen still these days. But he was deeply religious, as was Kepler and Copernicus, the others who were deeply changing our view of the world. So obviously, experimentally proven it can go together. Right?
Yes.
So and I think it also you also need some foundation, some hope maybe, and some bigger perspective, and that helps you as well, also in science. So I've come across quite a few Christians in science and also other religions. I mean, I've been and also from many different countries. It's always such an enriching experience to sit together. I mean, I remember one scene. I think I might have described it in one book. I was at a big astronomy meeting in China, in the middle of Beijing, and we had thousands of people were there, and there were some Christian astronomers, and we just sat together next to the Bird's Nest. Is a big Olympic stadium, and had sort of a gathering, and even a little prayer said together in the middle of China.
Wow.
So and people from all different cultural backgrounds, and that's very, very enriching. And I can talk to Hindu people. I was in India at the beginning of this year at a big business conference. They asked me to give a keynote speech. And they specifically demanded I should speak about religious questions, because the room was full of thousands of business people, actually top-level business people, and they were many of them were Hindu, some were Christians, and they had deep questions. And they came to me afterwards and were talking about this, and we could talk. So I think if you have an open mind, I think this is really enriching. If you are in a congregation which gives you all the answers and doesn't allow you to ask questions, then the environment, I think, is difficult.
And I think, at least for me, a lot of the folks that I've known that have kind of gotten pushed away, in the US, a lot of us started as Catholic, and it is more of don't ask questions, just believe, and that's the point.
Right. And you had to be part of a certain political direction, and so which also makes it difficult. And I mean, like with technology, religion is also gives you a certain power over people.
Yes,
it will be used.
Yes,
and you see other examples, like in Europe. Football is a big sport. Soccer, right?
Right.
And I'm not an expert. My impression is that the World Soccer Federation is, there's a lot of corruption in there. I think, within 100 years, it's only there for 100 years. So it took the church, I think, 1,000 years to get to the same level of,
right.
as football just did in 100 years. Still, football is a nice sport to play, to be honest. Or soccer, sorry, for Americans.
No. I talk to enough people from around the world that I know exactly what you're referring to. Not American football, like worldwide football. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
We were at the evolution of emergence of life. So that was the question.
Oh yeah. Someone actually asked, interestingly enough, if I can find it. Do you have any recommendations for astrobiology beginnings, like books or anything like that? That's
okay.
That's one of those things that if you actually did that for a living, no one would believe you, right? Because as you say, we haven't found anything yet, and it sounds like something.
Well, I mean, there's okay. I can one book perhaps because I quote her in my book. which again is only available in German for now. But if there's an English publisher out there, now it's Alien Earth by Lisa Kaltenegger, and she's chair. There's a Carl Sagan chair at Cornell, and so she wrote a book about astrobiology, the search for life in the universe. And so she addresses some of these questions. And so, for me, the thing I learned was how amazing a simple cell is, right? I mean, just look at what you need for a simple cell.
Yep.
And these people trying to build an artificial cell, what they try to is they try to reduce, to get to a minimum cell that you need in order to, make it be alive. But there are many things you need, right? You need sort of some kind of information carrier, and like a DNA, you need to be able to duplicate it. The cell needs to be able to feed itself. It needs to be, maybe it needs some kinds of sensing capabilities. It needs a cell, I'll miss the English words, lipid, some shell, not a shell. Anyway, I miss the English word here. And so many things have to come together to make a living cell that can actually start to duplicate and evolve. So once you have a cell, it's actually fine, right? So then life will maybe find a way, but finding the right starting point, and this just doesn't happen by chance, right? So I mean, if you just randomly throw molecules together, life will not emerge. So you need certain conditions. You need certain combination of things to happen to actually make life emerge. And we simply don't know how likely it is that life emerges. It could very well be that it was complete freak accident. It just happened on one planet that all the right ingredients came together at the right moment in some conditions on the whatever, in some shallow little pond that people imagine, or somewhere else. Or actually, universe is just made to create life. It could be beaming with life everywhere, and we simply don't know. We have no clue. There's this famous Drake formula which says, okay, how many planets do we have, and how many are in the habitable zone, and you can have all kinds of factors, but some factors are completely unknown. It's like the emergence of life is one of those. So it could be that there's just one which actually made it to a civilization. It was 4.5 billion years it took the Earth to make us, and it really happened in the last, humans 2.5. The Stone Age is 2.5 million years old, and really civilization is just really modern civilization, 100 years that we can radiate stuff into space, that we could be heard with radio communication.
Either
out of 4.5 billion. So I mean, it's a very recent phenomenon. So so we simply don't know.
This is the easy stuff you think about day in and day out, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
we could be completely unique in an endless sea of stars, or we might not be.
Right.
This is you do this before your morning cup of coffee, I imagine.
Sort of. At least I think about it. And one of the answers is astronomy, just to make some advertisement for my field.
Yeah.
You can try to make life in the laboratory. That's what people try to do. Maybe understand at some point how this happens. But if you talk to these people, they understand it's tough. It really is tough to do this. I mean, there are lots of targeted effort, but we don't know whether I suspect it will happen at some point. But whether it happens in 10 years or 50 years, I have no idea. And it may happen.
And it seems like we're just starting to really understand the actual universe itself. You led to the telescope that took a picture of a black hole, which, what was it, 100 years ago? Society didn't even know anything about them. Right. Einstein literally theorized them, and it's not until 100 years later where we've actually been able to see them.
Right. Yeah, it took 100 years from essentially formulation of general relativity to the experiment that really saw the first image of a black hole. And that the picture was present in our mind, but then suddenly you see it with an actual telescope, and it's so different. And with life, it may be the same, right? So maybe at some point we see clear evidence for alien life, or we'll never find it, but we have to look for it. So that's at some point, same with black holes. People thought black holes. Many people believed black holes would exist, but still, it was just such an emotionally awesome moment to actually see that first picture, because something that you thought existed, but it really exists. Seeing is believing, as they say.
So how long did you work? How did that project come about? Because a lot of people like myself, we're just on the outside, and it's like on the news, like, hey, we see, first picture of a black hole. And for majority of people, they don't grasp or don't care, don't have the time or energy, right, to put up with it. But you've lived your life that. How long have you worked on a project like that? How does that even start?
That's why I need to read my book, Light in the Darkness, which describes that.
There we go. I will totally do that.
Version, so another a commercial here, but I don't earn anything from that anymore. So but it's great if you read it, because that describes the story. And I think it's I worked on this for 30 years. Like 30 years ago, I suddenly had this eureka moment. In the book I called the amazing grace moment. I was blind, but now I see. Because I was thinking about looking at black holes and so forth, and I suddenly, there was something missing that I hadn't just gotten right. And then I looked at an old book, and I suddenly saw something that made this click, and I said, yes, we can do this. We can see that black hole. And that was about 30 years ago. And it was based because I was in an institute where I knew some technology that would be able to do this in 10 years. And they had started to do some prototyping. So it's not that I invented the technology, but I was putting things together. I was making a model for the black hole in the center of our Milky Way, and it actually was predicting that light would come directly from the event horizon.
Yeah.
And so you would illuminate the black hole with light at a certain frequency. And I knew that from the experimental side at the institute, there could be a technology in a few years where we could actually observe at these frequencies, and we could potentially make an image by combining these radio telescopes around the world and make it function as one big telescope, and then we could potentially see that. And then first I thought it was too small. I was a bit discouraged, but then I realized the black hole is actually magnifying itself. And that was this eureka moment. It's actually bigger. Yes, it's just big enough. We might be able to see it. What
is that? What did that feel like?
I was. Is it ice bearing? Is that a no?
Ice bearing?
No, it's when you go around this is, I think, Dutch.
Okay.
If you go around like an ice bear in a circle, and so I was excited. I was getting up. I think it was a foggy November whatever afternoon. It was very gray outside. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just walking around the table and just wow, this could be. And so I was really excited. So I think I knew at this moment knew with scientific uncertainties, within scientific uncertainties, right?
Yeah.
It could happen, right? And it could change your life. That I knew. And then I was telling at conferences about this. Hey, we can see this black hole. People, yeah, fine. We can see this black hole, fine. And they took it away. They sort of pushed it a little bit away, or didn't take it that serious. I think. Well, it was like, okay, yes, fine. so far out there. Yeah, literally, I think a colleague of told me once, I still remember you giving this talk 20 years ago. I said, I thought this is really far out there. Right? So this is not going to be real. And then, we thought, okay, we have to do some more experiments to show that this radiation coming from close to the black hole, we have to show that the technology works, that actually what some other groups worked on. And we showed theoretically that actually, how the shadow of the black hole looked like. We called it the shadow of a black hole at the time. And so you build momentum. And then a few, 2-3 people that, I collaborated with, thought, yes, we can do this. And so, we tried to pitch it to the community. And that still took years, Pathfinder experiments here and there, me doing a detour via other subjects, and then coming with a big, grant that actually helped us make this. And, we we really got the world together to do this, which was not an easy process. It's some people ask what was the biggest challenge. I would say not the technology, it was the people sometimes. Now, you have to get used to each other and find ways how this works.
And it's I mean, we talk about diversity as being, like, I say it's a great thing, but it can be a barrier for some things. Just language, even if we all speak English, we all speak it potentially in different ways, like ice bearing, right? Like, I've not heard that one before, those idioms. But it seems like too that we've come honestly, so far.
American English has becoming much more difficult for me because there's so many new slang terms and so forth, and people
Professor,
use names I've never heard of. I just I feel like, okay, I'm getting old.
It's no, and I feel the same way. Again, I have 2 kids, and I'm just like, some of the things they say, it's like, why? And they're like, I don't know, I just like saying it. It's like, oh my God, I'm so old. But again, the internet gives us the opportunity to evolve our language in ways that we never thought possible. And kind of every culture or every generation does that too. You make these things yours, but again, the virality of these things seems to happen at the speed of light. It's so hard to keep up.
Right. That's also true. Yes. Yeah. So you may get, may live longer, but you also get older much more quickly. So.
Yeah. That's horrifying to think about, but it's so true. It was one of my guests. Her name was Anka. She was on, and she mentioned the late 1900s, and it's like, oh, that hurts. But again, like, my kids are going to take for granted things that didn't exist literally when I was a kid. My kids would rather watch, a YouTube channel than TV.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. And and I'm old, right? I'm getting old, and I recently, sometimes the internet, you get these memes and stuff, right? And so someone said, when you were born, your birthday was closer to the beginning of World War I than to today. That's actually true.
Wow.
So my birthday, when I was born, I was closer to beginning of World War I than I was to now. And if you look at it, it's completely different world. And so how much the world has changed
and that's something that, like, I always wonder, and that younger generations can never understand. Again, it comes back to the diversity of all of us. Is my life, even if we would have lived next door to each other, when you were 20, 30, whatever years older than me, your life is still significantly different than mine. I will, and I always ask, like, my dad, like, we all feel like things are going in the wrong direction, as you put it. And a lot of people think that it's never been as bad as it is now. And it's just, I always wonder, is that the case, or is it just that we have access to everything and it's all being beamed straight into our head all at once?
That is certainly part of it, right? To know everything. And I grew up without the internet, I still know how it was. And I don't think I had an easy life, right? So I had very difficult times at school. I felt I was bullied. I was, I went through all these experiences. So I wouldn't say life was much easier or much better at the time. In fact, I still remember when I was with my kids in Arizona. We were visiting, I think, was it the Minuteman rocket silos, or I think it was Minuteman or some other. There's some rocket silos we were visiting, where there were nuclear rockets in there. And my daughter said, "So, Dad, when you were young, these things were pointing at you." And I said, "It's probably true. Yeah." So there was a time when they were reprogrammed to go into Germany, because in case the Russians would take over, right? We would be at the front line of a nuclear war. And that was on our minds, pretty much. So I wouldn't think that we had an easier life, but now you get everything instantly, all the time, indeed. And so I think you have to shield yourself a little bit from that. That's the one thing, and the other one, which I'm also worried about is the polarization, and the polarization is also equally among the good and the bad people, right? Because I think it's also important sometimes to talk with whatever you consider bad,
Yes.
or let's listen and talk to other people and understand they have a different life experience, different background, and there's often a reason why they are like they are. And again, folks like us, they come from literally a different age. We have a different life experience than the younger generation. And there are certain reasons why we react to certain things more emotionally than others. But it's so important to keep talking to each other, and quite often I see, this guy, we'll not talk to, or whatever. I know sometimes difficult to talk to certain people, but try to talk and try to listen.
No, and it's easy to misconstrue text, right? Like my wife and I, we're people. We literally sometimes are arguing the same exact thing, and we're doing it in two different ways. We don't know it. And then we kind of have to pause. But now, again, when we are able to reach out to diversity in anything, I have a member in my community that he's British, and like the other day, I thought I upset him, and he's like, "No, that's my sense of humor." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Happened to me as well. Humor on the internet. Sometimes I make I make bad jokes, really, and sometimes they're really not understandable as jokes. And so if you do it on the internet, on like Mastodon or Twitter, people don't get it. It's dangerous. Don't make jokes.
That's kind of what I'm all about, though. I'm just very snarky, I guess, and sarcastic. No, but you have to be careful. It's funny if you ever think of someone like reading a text message, and I always have to tell this to people, is when someone reads something back, like, I can't believe they said this to me, and they say it in a way, it's like, okay, strip out all the tone you have, make it as flat as possible, and reread what you said, and it's like, it comes off differently. Right?
Yeah,
and
that's a good point. Yeah, no, I think I mean, other people can be wrong. I mean, actually, most people are actually wrong. Actually, everybody is probably wrong to some degree.
Yes.
But it's good to check what they really said before you get completely upset. I mean, even if it's upsetting, I mean, and you have to fight certain things and certain developments, still try to find a common base as humans with each other. And I think it works with most people. Everybody has some dark corners and some things which are really, maybe even dangerous sometimes or so. But many people also have a lot of good corners and ways to connect and ways to,
and we can always, there was always some overlap. There's always some point that we can agree on, and we don't have to agree on everything, and we'll look at things differently. And that's one of the reasons why I'm thankful for things like the Fediverse, is because I've actually had real conversations on there versus Twitter, in my opinion, or Facebook or whatever. As I've said to people, it is social media. Media is meant to be consumed, not interacted with. Like, we call it like a business network when you're looking for a job. You have to get out there and you have to network, right? And that's really what I think that these things should be, is a social network. We build out a community. We have real conversations. And that's actually why I started the show, so that, people get to know each other. We break down those walls. We're going to have a million things that we can disagree on. We have the decision to focus on those things that we're going to disagree on, or we can make the decision to focus on the things that can bring us together, is how I see it.
That's almost a good way sentence to close, but
yeah. Well, I mean, we can. So, because I know we're over an hour already, but I love talking. This is amazing.
Me too. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But now for the real reason I asked Professor Falcke.
Oh, wonderful.
Here is to give him the opportunity to win a prize of a lifetime. Okay. Since you're involved with black holes, our prize today is a bucket of an ultra black color that makes Vanta Black look like it's glowing.
Oh, I do have Vanta Black, so that's okay. Cool.
All right. Are you ready for the quiz?
Oh, I'm scared already. So I'm gonna embarrass myself mightily.
Well, and you're a professor, so if your students watch this, they can.
That's why I can embarrass myself, right?
First question is favorite movie, and why is it Spaceballs?
Because it's so funny.
I love Spaceballs. Is that your favorite movie?
I do. It's not. I can watch it. I like it. I am into. I like. I'd probably make myself very unpopular because I actually do like Star Trek and Star Wars both. But Spaceballs is Now I think it gives the right balance. If you see all these serious movies, you have to watch Spaceballs. Absolutely.
What is your favorite movie?
I have many. Well, I don't know. I don't watch that many movies, to be honest.
No.
Well, I do like Captain Picard, right? So everything with Picard, I liked.
Okay.
When I was young, there was a movie called Koyanis Katsi. I don't know whether you know this. Okay,
No.
now I'll try to get very nerdy. I think it was an Native American word name. Koyanis Katsi is, I think, turmoil or something like that. But it's a movie that has no words and has no story. It just has pictures of nature and stuff. And I heard that I'm never going to watch that thing. It just, this is going to be, it's not going to work. It's, this is for, nerdy people, for people who are really intellectuals, and I'm not an intellectual. I'm a normal person. I watched that movie, said I was hooked, right? I think, how can you make such a movie and, with no words, no story, and I understand it. It was amazing. So that wasn't, that was the most surprising movie I've seen.
It sounds like it was very eye-opening for you personally.
No, just the sheer fact that it worked, right? My prejudice that this would be, a boring evening and stuff. And suddenly I was really like, wow, what a movie.
I love that. Awesome.
Koyanis Katsi, if you probably don't know how to spell it.
I looked it up.
I can't spell it either.
So if anyone watching the video hears this, put it in the comments or tune it out at me, because I would love to see this thing that I know for a fact I'm not going to understand because I'm not an intellectual, but I would love to see what it is.
Yeah, but maybe the film is so 1980s, and I haven't seen it in ages. So maybe it's maybe it doesn't hold up. It takes so long and stuff.
Yeah,
very strange. Anyway,
next question: Galileo Galilei, Archimedes, or Pythagoras?
Oh, wow. Galileo was an interesting type. I suspect that as a person, I would not have gotten along with him.
Okay.
It's so I would bet on Archimedes, but I know even less of what kind of person he was.
Okay.
I think Galileo, for example, right? He was ignoring Kepler, right? Kepler actually had the better model with the ellipses. And just for everybody out there, the telescope was not an invention by Galileo. It was actually a Dutchman. In fact, it was a German working in the Netherlands who actually invented the telescope in 1908, Hans Lippershey, I think. And Galileo actually, to be honest, he actually says he used the Dutch telescope. So that was
wow. The things you learn.
Yeah, so
it's like Tesla versus Edison kind of thing, right? Is what it sounds like. Is there's that competition in humanity, and history is going to decide for itself.
Yeah, and both were really important in changing our worldview, and all of that led to this discovery of gravity, for example, by Newton 50 years later. Think about 50 years later, if that's true, and that led to Albert Einstein. So this is a continuity.
And it all builds on itself.
And both of them actually build on the work of Copernicus. And he was very well trained in all the Greek astronomy and so forth.
And I mean,
and others.
They led to you, right? Taking a picture of a black hole, which is going to lead on to someone else.
I'm a little flea standing on really huge giants, right? So that's with many others, on the shoulder of real giants. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Since you're into black holes, we have a question about holes. Threaded, tapered, or countersink?
Oh, threaded, tapered,
or countersink.
Now I understand. Now I have to understand that joke. I would say threaded because all black holes are threaded by magnetic fields, and that produce powerful jets. And that actually changes the entire evolution of the universe. The fact that black holes are threaded by magnetic fields.
See, I didn't know that. That's amazing to think of, and it makes. I mean, in my very limited understanding of black holes, it makes sense. That's incredible. Okay.
Well, that's really a way to extract, and that's actually a process we call the Blandford-Snijek process. We actually can extract rotation energy from a black hole via magnetic fields. And so you can put a lot of energy into these jets, and some of these jets, plasma jets that we see, have energy like of as much energy as all the stars in our Milky Way, which are 100 billion stars. And all that is generated by a supermassive black hole and generated by the threading of magnetic fields. So there you go.
Piece of cake. No, that amazes me though. That makes you wonder, like, we fight over sources of energy now. Right, we're going through that's what a lot of this is about, is how do we fund, or energy-wise, how do we fund what is normal society? And there's black holes out there that you're like, yeah, we could just harvest those for energy. And then I'm like, wait, what is going to be the global warming of black holes?
Well, if you, they are pretty hot right now. And if you, that's the example I always give. If you throw 10 buckets of water into a black hole, you can power all of the Netherlands with power for an entire year. All of the Netherlands, all of the forms of energy, right? Transportation, heating, and so forth. So 10 buckets of water. And so we're rich. We have that water in the Netherlands, right? So we're just missing a black hole. I suspect, though, that most people would not feel comfortable if I would bring one home. So in that sense, it may not be so practical.
Yeah, no, I remember when CERN was going live, and there was a bit of an uproar online, like, oh my God, they're going to create a black hole and suck the whole world in. It's like, calm down.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think the answer they gave was exactly my first, knee-jerk reaction was, come on, guys, we have cosmic particles. We are, they're bombarding Earth since its beginning with much higher energy, and even center of mass energy is comparable to what CERN does. So if any of those collisions would produce black holes that suck up the Earth, it would have happened already, right? So anyway, but I wasn't that worriid. But sometimes you see things. Internet goes crazy with ideas, with new things.
Well, but
right now there's this interstellar comet. I forgot even the name. Where people say, "Oh, it's aliens coming here," and so forth. It just, it comes and goes. But
it's also the idea of like the average man attempting to understand something in a way as quickly as possible, because it's interesting. Like there's the classic.
It's a valid question, right? So that's a good thing, right? If you ask that question, it's a valid question. You have to find an answer. But what's not valid is to just go non-linear on the internet and claim all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And turn this into a big, I don't know.
I was gonna say, like, if you watch the movie Oppenheimer, like at one point he tells the general that there's a non-zero chance that it could light the atmosphere on fire. And when that movie came out too, everyone was like, wait, they did this and they know? It's like, yes, but it's not. Like it wasn't
very likely.
Yeah, it's so infinitesimally small. A scientist is not going to say it's not going to happen.
Right.
But right.
Yeah, it could, in other fields like a virus or so, right? So it could happen, right? So if you have a very dangerous virus that you create, so, I mean, you do need to ask those questions. It's absolutely true. yeah, in this particular case, I was absolutely not worried.
All right. Next question. What does an alternate universe Professor Falcke do?
What would he do? Problem is that Professor Falcke does so many things already. Maybe he would just sit and rest on the beach, right? He would sit on the beach, just enjoy life, and I don't know. That's
okay. I like that. Yeah, that's like. It's always interesting to get these questions. I always love it's always interesting to get the answer to these absolute nonsensical questions. I love it. Because I always get so many answers.
Pretty deep questions in the end, actually.
Right. Well, so I have an alternate universe phone. It changes from week to week. This week, it is a card that says "Just Chicken In," and on the inside, it says "To wish you a happy birthday."
Oh.
Yeah, it changes. It changes from episode to episode. It's an alternate universe phone. It's very real. I know you're a professor of astrophysics, but trust me, that's a real phone.
I absolutely trust you. I mean, I trust people on the internet. If they say things, that'll be right.
There's that classic. Yeah, exactly. I'm a person on the internet. Just trust me. Yeah.
And the guy on the internet said that.
when I reached out to an alternate universe, he said he actually got sucked into a black hole while studying them. Right. That actually connected to our reality, but traveled him back in time. So not to mess with the timeline, he went on to make something that he didn't think would be all that interesting. It was Disney's movie, The Black Hole. So yeah. If you've never seen that movie, it's not.
I've seen that movie. Yes, it was a absolutely classic of intellectual filmmaking. It was, yeah.
It's a movie.
It's a movie. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's a movie.
All right. Next question, and I'm going to get these wrong, so please bear with me and help me out if you could. Baumkuchen or Stollen or Lebkuchen?
Okay, I'm lost. What's the first word?
I think it's pronounced Baumkuchen.
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 Baumkuchen. Yeah, Baumkuchen. Okay, that's okay. It's a food.
Yep.
Yes.
Baumkuchen or
Baumkuchen. Yeah.
Stollen.
Stollen. Yes, Stollen. Oh, I thought you meant stolen. No, Stollen.
No, Stollen.
Stollen. Yeah, I'm absolutely with Stollen. Yeah, I don't. Okay, what's the third one? It's so fun to hear you, but.
Thank you.
Lebkuchen. I now understand what. It works actually. Once you know what the direction is. So I mean, there's absolute favorite is absolutely Stollen.
Stollen.
Stollen. Yeah, and in fact, we have a Christmas party tomorrow at our department, and everybody brings, because we have so many different countries, they bring traditional food, and I bring a Stollen. It's sort of a cake, not cake. Yeah, it's it's sort of cake that can last. Actually, it has to sit there for months, right, before it really becomes tasty. Lots of sugar on top, raisins, and it tastes really, really good. Just you have to taste it. It has a very special.
But it has to sit out for months.
I think you have to let it sit for a month or so, and then you cut it, and then Mm-hmm. Of course, the problem is I like it so much I cut it too quickly. So I can't wait for a month.
And then it's not quite as good. You're like, if I would just left it go another day. It's like, but I wanted it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's how it works.
It's good to know. All right. And as usual for this show, our last question will be sent telepathically, Professor Falcke. So please open your telepathic lines. I'll send you the question, think about it, and then let me know when you have the answer. You ready? Here it comes. All right, there's your question. It might have seemed like I only sent it for a second, but the power of telepathy allows you to send vast amounts of information very fast. So the professor got the full question. Take your time. Let me know.
So you want my answer?
Yeah, please.
It's 42.
42. Okay, so
Yes.
why? Here's the one that always trips everyone up. Why is your answer 42 to that question?
Yeah. Now, because that's the answer to essentially the question of all the questions, right? So
that's always the answer.
It's always the answer.
All right.
And just for perspective, when we found this first picture of the black hole, right? One of the key measure that we had was what is the width of that ring? Because it's related to the properties of the black hole.
Yeah.
And it's measured in micro-arc seconds. And you can guess how many micro-arc seconds it was. It was 42.
It was not.
It was.
Did everyone get excited and nerd out over that?
No, it's we had our fun.
Okay. That's amazing. Well, congratulations. You got every answer either correct or incorrect. Good job.
Yes. I'm like, Schrödinger's cat, correct and wrong at the same time.
Yes, exactly. Right. Unfortunately, that new super black that makes Vanta black appear last year can't be found. As it absorbs all light, we don't know where we put it. So I apologize. We won't be able to give you.
I was afraid that would happen. Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on. This has been absolutely incredible. Thank you for all your contributions to science. Thank you for being on the Fediverse. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for the show. I hope people enjoy it. Okay.
Yeah.
See you then on Mastodon.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
And everyone else, have a great day, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you all. Have a good one. Bye.